with everything going on with Diddy right now, it reminded me about Karrine Steffans and her New York Times bestselling novel, autobiography rather, about her life, Confessions of a Video Vixen, that came out in 2005. And remember when her book came out, it rocked the nation, not only the hip hop industry, but the world. Everybody and their mama was talking about that book. Everybody was buying it. Everybody's mouths were dropped. Everybody was gagged at the tryst that she had with all of these well-known rappers and athletes and actors. By the way, it's your girl Keisha, aka ColorMePynk, and I am here with another exposing Diddy video. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please do so, and make sure you click that thumbs up button and turn on your notification bell buttons as well. And if you have not joined my Patreon, please do so. Everything over there on my Patreon is raw and uncut, honey, and unfiltered. So make sure you join for reviews and reaction videos. But back to Diddy. Karrine at that time, it was so risque and unfathomable for somebody to come out and name names about the people that they slept with, did schmugs with, and all of these different, illicit acts. And a lot of, not even a lot, I believe pretty much all of the guys at that point denied what she was saying and calling her a liar. And if they did admit it, they called her the W word and all of that type of stuff. But she had some very interesting stories about Diddy in her book, which he denied vehemently at the time. But something told me to go back and take a listen. And literally everything that she claimed back then is the same things that are being claimed about him now in 2024. And she also exposed Irv Gotti for his pimpish ways back then and some of the sick and twisted stuff that he was into. Let's take a listen.
This is about the time I re-sparked my affair with Irv Gotti, head of the label which housed my former lover Ja Rule, as well as singer Ashanti. Gotti would call me every time he was in town, and even when he wasn't. When he called, I went to him. I did whatever he asked of me, and he would take care of me financially for the time that I spent with him and Inc. I was a part of something when I was with them, but I was also a drug addict and an alcoholic. From sun up to sundown, we were surrounded by ecstasy and cognac. It was literally there for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I continued to be depressed after wrapping the movie and began to indulge even more in the dangerous habits that accompanied hanging out with this crowd. There was more sex, more intoxicants, and more unsavory behavior. I was paid to be the bad girl, but as long as I was wanted, I would have done whatever it took to stay in the mix. The things that went on while Gotti and I were together are almost unimaginable to me now, but in a haze of drugs and liquor, it all seemed all right. I was being used over and over again. There was man after man, all friends and acquaintances of Gotti's. I was doing what I was told by one of the most prominent men in my life, and now was well rewarded for my misbehavior. It's no secret that Gotti is not the most sensitive person around. In fact, he can be downright brutal. It's also no secret that Gotti was married with 3 children and kept lovers all around the globe. But I was his favorite. No matter where he was in the world, he would always find his way back to me. His wife knew of me and our relationship. I wasn't in love with Gotti by any means, but he was the gatekeeper to the lifestyle to which I'd become accustomed and addicted. And because of that, Gotti was in charge. I quickly became Gotti's showpiece. He would turn other people in the industry onto me. I was his party favor and became the new form of payola with label and radio heads. Whenever there was someone who Gotti wanted to impress, he would send me to them and I would take care of them. One of those people was Sean P. Diddy Combs. It was sometime after Valentine's Day 2001, just after Diddy and Jennifer Lopez had announced their split. Gotti and I had been spending the day drinking and popping ecstasy pills, as usual. The mixture of alcohol and X often made us extremely sexual, and we would have sex all day and night. As a lover, Gotti was insatiable. The drug drove him to unbelievable heights, and soon he began experimenting with Viagra. Sex became more like a boxing match than anything else. We would compete against each other, and on most every occasion, I would win. There were a few times when he actually got up and ran, and even locked himself in the bathroom in order to get away from me. Still, at other times, he got the upper hand, and I would lie in bed, curled in a ball, feeling completely spent, which in my inebriated state turned me on even more. Gotti and I were a perfect match as lovers. On one particular night, we were riding around Beverly Hills in a limousine with Ja and other members of the Inc., and we ended up at Moomba, a club on the west side. We ventured through the club, entourage in tow, and made our way to the outdoor patio and out to the back parking lot. I stood there beside Gotti as Diddy walked up to him. They greeted each other with a slap of the right hand. Diddy held a drink in his left. He seemed to be as intoxicated as we were. I stood there looking at him while they spoke, and all of a sudden he turned and looked right at me. His conversation with Gotti was abruptly cut short as he took a few steps closer to me, grabbed my hand, and said, "I want you. Can I have you?" Then Diddy turned to Gotti and said, "My bad, dog. Is this you?" Gotti quickly said, Nah, it's cool. This is Set. She's cool people." "Can she come with me?" Diddy asked. I wanted to leave with Diddy right then. The ecstasy had me in a mood where whatever I felt normally was heightened 100%. Even the wind on my face made me orgasmic. Right there in front of me, Gotti and Diddy made arrangements for me to meet Diddy at his house in an hour. "I'll send her to you in a little bit," Gotti said. "Give me the address." I didn't understand why Gotti didn't let me go with Diddy right then, but we took the address and got back in the limo. We went back to L'Hermitage, and after we took more ecstasy, Gotti was tearing away at my clothes. Gotti had a strange bedside manner. He would get rough at times, which I could handle when we were high. He also liked to compare himself to other men. He would want to know how they were built and how they had sex. He wanted to know if I liked Diddy and if I was going to sleep with him when I got over there. "You gon' f him good, huh?" Gotti asked. I just wanted him to hurry and shut up so I would make my way to Canyon Drive to meet up with Diddy. Gotti set me on my way and gave me a key to his room so I wouldn't wake him when I returned. It was 4 in the morning when I pulled up to Diddy's home in my SUV. There were security guards in the driveway, all of them dressed in dark suits with their hands clasped in front of them. They stood at attention, waiting for me to approach the gate. They had been expecting me, and they let me in the gate and into the house through the garage. I stood in the hallway, waiting for Diddy. My body was hot as the drugs and alcohol continued to feed off of each other. After just a few minutes, Diddy greeted me and showed me to the nearest bedroom, where Farnsworth Bentley had been sleeping. Diddy woke him and gestured to him to leave the room. My guess was that there was someone else upstairs in Diddy's room, and that this was to be my first and final destination within the home. "So who is Gotti to you?" he asked. "And is he cool with this?" "Gotti's my boy," I said. "When I see something I want, he lets me have it." So with that slight formality out of the way, Diddy and I spent the next 15 minutes or so engaging in the usual. After the experience, he said, "You are one of the best." I said the same to him when, in actuality, he was average. Our sexual encounter was pretty straightforward, nothing out of the ordinary. Before I left, he asked me to meet him back at the house the next morning around 11:30 for brunch. I emphatically accepted and traveled back to L'Hermitage and to Gotti, who was asleep. I crawled into bed and fell asleep beside him. The next morning, Gotti wanted details. I really had nothing to say about my experience with Diddy. He was polite and gentle, and I actually preferred him as a person over Gotti, who was cocky and nasty at times. Gotti seemed a bit frustrated with my unwillingness to give details and even more irritated by the fact that I had been invited back for brunch. He always wanted to present me as his resident, but hated it when anyone actually wanted to keep me around, which happened quite often. He almost relished the idea of people using me and then throwing me away, like yesterday's newspaper. But I was beaming from ear to ear as I got dressed and headed back to Diddy's house. Gotti left in a hurry with the look of disgust on his face, and that made me even happier. Back at Diddy's, I was received with open arms by him and his entire staff. I met him upstairs in his dressing quarters where his tailor was fitting him for the upcoming MTV Music Awards. I was awestruck by the vast array of suits, ties, shirts, and shoes. They were so obviously rich in fabric and texture, and he was handsome in everything that he tried on. I stood by the French doors, drinking in the sun, as Farnsworth Bentley sat intently on the floor next to me with his legs crossed, Indian style. He looked up at Diddy with a gleam of admiration. Everyone in the home was devoted to Diddy and catered to all his needs, and, for the afternoon, all of mine. Brunch was served on a long rectangular table in the dining room. Diddy and I sat and talked about who I was and about my relationship with Gotti. He listened but didn't have much to say. He was extremely kind, and I remember him complimenting me, saying I was very pretty and had beautiful skin. I began to understand all the hype about Diddy, why he is this pop culture icon. He's got that star quality, that something which draws people to him and makes them want to be in his space and part of his world. I was no different. By the end of the afternoon, I'd become easily enamored. We arrived in Miami on December 29th. When most of the country was freezing, Miami was a balmy 80 degrees. We checked into the Turnberry Resort about a half hour from Miami Beach. Our suite overlooked the golf course and a lake, but there was one reason in particular for the trip, and that was to attend Diddy's pre-New Year's Eve party at his home and his New Year's Eve bash at the Shore Club. Diddy had no idea that I would be coming, and I hadn't seen him since earlier that year. I had not told Exhibit that Diddy and I knew each other for fear he would decide not to take me. I was looking forward to seeing Diddy again, and especially to what I knew would be the look on his face when he saw me. Finally, the moment arrived, and Exhibit and I stepped into Diddy's home. I looked around for a moment and saw a lot of people who I knew, yet I was only concerned with the host. Just as I was scanning the room for him, Diddy appeared in front of us. All of his attention was on Exhibit as he greeted him, thanking him for coming. As he moved down the line, his eyes fixed on my face and his jaw dropped. Diddy said his hellos and gave me a generous hug, then grabbed me by the hand and pulled me out to the front lawn. Diddy asked uneasily, "We're cool, right? I mean, we're friends, right?" I was confused by the line of questioning, but assured him we were, in fact, cool. He continued, "I'm saying no. You know I have kids and a mother and people who love me. I can't afford for anything to get out. I don't want them to be upset." I was still very confused, but reassured him that I would in no way try to harm him, and especially not his family and loved ones. We went back into the house and met back up with Exhibit. The look on Exhibit's face was asking, "What's going on?" And all I could do was shrug my shoulders. I had no idea. I went along to mingle with the rest of the attendees and say hello to the people I knew. Diddy and Exhibit disappeared upstairs at Diddy's request, leaving me baffled. About 45 minutes later, Exhibit came downstairs and grabbed me by my forearm, dragging me out to the front lawn. His eyes were wide and his mouth open. "What did you do to that man?" he asked. I was even more confused than ever. Exhibit went on to describe the conversation he'd had with Diddy. Diddy had warned Exhibit to be careful around me and to not let me near his home. Diddy even confided that he was in the process of buying the home we were in, but now that I had been there, he would not go through with the purchase. Then he said something even stranger. Exhibit told me that Diddy said, "She'll have you on video with fingers in your booty." By this point, Exhibit was just as confused as me. We stood on the front lawn laughing hysterically. Diddy appeared to be under the influence. But underneath the laughter, there was a serious thought running through my head. Why was Diddy this anxious around me? I remained baffled and threw the thought into the back of my mind as Exhibit and I rejoined the party. There was fabulous food and drink and plenty of other stimulation. We were all having such a good time, with maybe the exception of Farnsworth, who appeared to have gotten on Diddy's bad side that evening. We partied until the early morning and were expecting it all to come to an end when Diddy summoned Exhibit and me to join him in heading to a local nightclub. The three of us jumped into his black-on-black SUV, which was a small part of his large convoy of similar vehicles. After a short ride, we arrived at the nightclub. I don't remember the name of the club, but I do remember what it was like inside. At first, we all sat in the VIP area and cracked open a few bottles of champagne and made a toast to the new year. It felt good to be out with Exhibit and even with Diddy. We were all happy and living in the moment. All of the troubles which awaited me back in Los Angeles were just that, back in Los Angeles. The club was full of energy, the music was loud, and the dance floor was packed. There were several men who were shirtless, and the few women who were there were also wearing very little. Exhibit went crazy when we got on the dance floor. Not one for dancing, I stood on the sidelines and watched him. He was so happy, so free, and enjoying his blessed life. I couldn't help but feel a little sad as the alcohol began to wear off. I wanted this moment to last forever. The laughing, the sips of premium champagne, the loud music, and carefree feelings. I stood and watched Exhibit dance and jump around, greeting the fans who reached out to him. I noticed that the majority of the men around us were gay. There were a few gay couples scattered around the club, kissing and carrying on in dark corners. There were others dancing together on the dance floor, bumping and grinding. I flagged down Exhibit to share my revelation with him. I asked him, "Look around. Do you notice anything strange about this place?" He stopped dancing and took a second to look around the room. Soon enough, it hit him. "This looks like a gay club." I responded with a grin and a nod. This was Miami, after all. The grin soon turned into roaring laughter as Exhibit stood there in disbelief. "Did this just bring us to a gay club?" he asked, laughing and laying aside, for a moment, the usual macho mantle that cloaks most rappers.
Yeah, I'd completely forgotten about all of that until I downloaded her book the night before last and started listening to it again. I have not read or listened to this book since it came out in 2005. But this just proves once again that the entertainment industry, Hollywood in general, is just a cesspool of disgusting behavior, by these men, and I'm pretty sure a lot of women as well. Even though she was a willing participant in all of this, knowing that Irv Gotti took pleasure in passing her around for Hollywood favors and for deals and for clout or whatever is disgusting. It's literally disgusting. This man had a wife and kids at home, and it's apparent that back then, Diddy was on the same type of time he's recently been charged with, living this double life, liking male counterparts, the finger up the booty and all of this type of stuff, being afraid that she was going to expose what they did that night together and taking them to a gay club. And, all of these innuendos and allegations that people have said against him for years that he's been on some funny type time. There have been so many stories throughout the years about him doing, suspect things with other men. 50 Cent came out, plenty of time saying how he tried to dress him and take him shopping. But, this thing has been following him for years. And Exhibit even went as far as to co-sign everything that Karrine said in this book in an interview.
We went to Florida. We got invited to a Puffy party, the New Year's Eve party. Went to the party,
all dudes?
Yeah. Nah, it was actually a good party. You know what I'm saying? It was on South Beach, right?
Right.
So then we go to the house, and then, he invited us to the house because he wanted to go to the club afterwards, right? I was like, okay, cool. So Superhead is with me, you know what I'm saying? Karen is with me, you know what I'm saying? Whatever.
Superhead.
Yeah. So she takes me, Puffy calls me outside. He's like, "Hey, man, that girl you know about the girl you." I was like, yeah, everybody know about, you know what I'm saying? What's happening? He's like, that's the devil, man. You know what I'm saying? I was like, what you mean that's the devil?
The devil got a pretty mouth.
Yeah, and I was like, what you mean that's the devil? And then he was like, yeah, man, she videotaped you with fingers in the
you know
what I'm saying? I was like, what?
Rewind. I heard a finger in the ass going, what?
She said,
so Puffy tells you that
she will videotape you with fingers in the And I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Confession.
So then I go back and I
You
said,
wanna
you a
ask him?
filmer. No, I did ask him. He's just like, whatever. He went off and did his thing. And I was
Was
like,
he
okay.
limping?
He walked away and the nail fell out his boot.
No, I'm gonna clear it up because I'm not gonna have my name. I ain't gonna have my name out there crazy like that.
Go ahead.
So then she say, I told him what he told me, and she was like, oh, she started laughing like a you later. So then I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna make a big deal of it, whatever. So then then I guess he's had some prior incident with her that he don't want nobody to know about. You know what I'm saying? So we get into the truck. He said, let's go to this club. So everybody following the car. The car is silent. You know what I'm saying? We get to this club, and then we walk in the back way. It's a VIP lounge. Ain't nobody in there. And then, the club is going. It's all jumping. And then I'm sitting there with old girl. So he's doing his business. We go down and get a drink. We sitting there bobbing to the music, and then she point over the corner. It's two dudes kissing. You know what I'm saying? It's this. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay, then it's girls in the club too. And then she pointed another direction. It's another dude over there, like butt ass naked dancing. You know what I'm saying? We take off, man. You know what I'm saying? We leave the club directly. I didn't say peace to nobody. I didn't see nobody.
Gay.
Yeah, it was suspect. A lot of suspect.
The club was
You could chalk it up to being in Miami or whatever.
I never
blame it on
I've been in a gang.
alcohol.
I've been in a gang of clubs, man.
The club was called
and I ain't never
What's it called?
never mistakenly stepped into a club having that kind of activity.
Yeah, so Karrine wasn't lying. She was not lying. So you can pretty much guarantee that the other things that she talked about in her book were true as well. Then, to make matters worse, celebrity The Fat Jew came out with a story about one of Diddy's legendary parties. Let's take a listen.
I don't know if this story that I have about P. Diddy is a thing.
I love it.
You think it's something people
We didn't talk about it on the show, but you told us off the show.
Should I just tell you?
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to. I mean, listen, this isn't alleged because it happened to you.
No. There's nothing alleged about this.
Okay.
It is a legend.
Clap,
Clap.
Yay, we are comedians. All right, go for it.
We're so lonely. So I went to a party on Star Island in Miami, where P. Diddy has a private residence. I had no business being there. I was with a famed house producer who was DJing the party.
Sure.
And I will keep his name out of it.
Yep.
And I took a whole bunch of ecstasy because everyone there was taking ecstasy. It was basically me and like beautiful like ethnic models, like just beautiful women. It's all like, my man is telling me that like, every third person is some executive, got behind the scenes guys who I don't recognize.
It's a high end crowd.
Very high end. And there's no joke. There's maybe 100 people.
Okay.
I mean, it is intimate.
It's a serious,
I have
serious
no business
party.
being there.
Sure.
I'm in like a, like an old Jewish grandmother's windbreaker like I am now
Right.
at this exact moment.
Right.
And, so long story short, I am on ecstasy and I'm trying to find the bathroom and I can't find the bathroom and I just kind of like go down a flight of stairs and now I'm in like the inner windings of the mansion because most of it's going down by the pool.
Okay.
Cabanas and stuff.
Dragon's Lair.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're getting serious.
So I get lost and I'm in like just a maze of rooms.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking for the bathroom. I start opening doors. One's like a closet. One's a room. It doesn't have a bathroom in it. Whatever. Every room should have a bathroom in it.
That makes sense.
First of all,
if you're in this fucking
every
dungeon,
room should have, right.
Every house
So
should
I
have,
open a door and in that room there are a bunch of men and they're all kind of like very like Romanesque, like laying about and, kind of like very like kind of leaning on each other, not really spooning, but like conversationally spooning. Like if you were spooning, but facing each other and like leaning up on your elbow and talking.
Like, how about this? Like in public watching TV with a bunch of your friends and you're with your girlfriends.
Right. Yes.
It would be like those guys kind of lounging on their girlfriends, but they're not. That would be weird in public.
You almost think that they should be feeding each other grapes. Stuff like that.
Okay.
Like, it was very like
regal lounging.
Very erotic.
Okay. All right.
Heavy erotica.
Yeah, like the drawings you would see of like old Greek
right,
hangouts.
Exactly.
Yeah, I understand.
Or like a fat Greek woman like laid on her side.
Yeah, it would almost be the prelude to an orgy.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh my God. Oh
Okay.
my God. It was so prelude to an orgy.
So explain.
So I'm there for a very brief amount of time because I open the door and clearly I'm not supposed to be in there. And I look and who is lounging in my direct eye line? Puff Daddy and Felix the House Cat, famed house music producer.
Yeah, no, I know who that is.
Basically spooning each other. I swear to God, they're basically spooning and they're drinking a glass of Hennessy and they're like sharing it. they're like passing it back and forth.
And everyone's talking?
And everyone's just like talking.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I see them, I'm like,
all men though. There's not one woman in this room.
All men. And they're all 100% on ecstasy. Like you can see Diddy's in like white linen being like, oh my God. Like rub ice on my, you know, like, oh, you're one of my best friends.
Right.
So the minute I make eye contact with him, like a gigantic bouncer comes over and says, get the, because a lot of people turned and looked at me because it was very unexpected that like a fat guy with an afro,
Right.
like no shirt on, basically like an open windbreaker,
Right.
opened the door to like this, like,
You are kind of a buzzkill.
Definitely.
If I'm on ecstasy and getting ready.
Oh, this guy.
Yeah, T Squad, this was just another sick and twisted tale of Diddy's infamous history. And you know his story is true with the fact that he's saying that everybody there was on X. Same thing that Karrine said they was doing back in the 2000s. You know, Ja and Irv Gotti admitted that they was heavy on X back then. So it all adds up. And Karrine was the first person, one of the first people to tell us the real deal Holyfield. Yes, she was. Yes, she was.